Yeah.
He's always ready.
Is it time?
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the Bridgewater Town Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please have a brief moment of silence to recognize veterans and those who have passed. Thank you. Just a reminder to all that are in the room is that this meeting is being aired live over local access cable, and it is being recorded. Just want to remind everyone that Councilor Mr. Frank Souza is not able to be with us tonight, and I expect Councilor Loesch to perhaps arrive late. Everybody else is here. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our previous meetings.
So moved.
Second,
Which one?
May 7th.
May 7th. There's a motion, there's a second. Are they in here? They're not even in here, are they?
There.
There they are. Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the minutes of May 7th. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Entertain a motion to approve our minutes from May 14th.
So moved.
Second.
Been motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So our minutes have been passed. Announcements from the president. Before we get to that, just want to remind everyone the Bridgewater Veterans Council will be holding Memorial Day observances on May 27th, 2019, this coming Monday morning. Participants will gather on Perkins Ave at 10 a.m. All participating units will proceed at 10:30 a.m. south on Route 18 to a ceremony at the Bridgewater Common at approximately 11 a.m. The citizens of the town and this Veterans Council always appreciates and looks forward to your participation in these observances. The cemetery ceremonies will begin at 8 a.m. at the Mount Prospect Cemetery. Please respond to Pauline Grenier at 508-697-4538 no later than Friday, May 17th, which has passed, at 4 o'clock as to whether you'll be able to participate. Coalition will be held following the ceremony at the VFW Post 2125 on Orange Street. And that's signed by Kevin Marshall, the chairman of the Bridgewater Veterans Council. I certainly will be there, and I hope all my colleagues can join me on Monday. Also in your packet are the committee assignments. I appreciate everyone responding, and I know I've went back and forth with a couple of you about the assignments. The popular committee this year that everybody wanted to be on was Community and Economic Development. Budget and Finance was not a huge draw. I don't know why, though. So I really kept the Community and Economic Development the same, simply because everybody wanted on it, and I say, well, why take those that are off? So I think pretty much everybody got what they requested, I believe. The one thing for caution for future council presidents, I've got 2 years to go, or 1 year after this year, but the Budget and Finance Committee, I think, is loaded with a lot of experience. And hopefully we can put a newer person in there, at least next year, to coach them along, as we won't be on the council forever. Maybe Bill Wood will. But that's the only concern that I have, but we're going to have some tough budgets coming up, and I think if we get some newer people to want to serve on that committee would be great.
Everyone is invited to all meetings.
Sure thing. So that's that. We do not have any proclamations this evening. I'll entertain anyone from the citizens, during the Citizens Open Forum of this meeting. Is there any citizens here wishing to speak at the Citizens Open Forum? Any citizen at all? Seeing none, I will now go to item E, appointments. We have a Finance Committee appointment of Julie Skleparis. I'll refer to the town manager on this appointment.
Mr. President, this Finance Committee appointment is actually yours, the council's appointment, so I believe you have currently one opening, and so Ms. Claparis would fill that role. She's obviously, I think everybody here knows, was most recently on the school committee. She chose not to run again and has decided to seek a seat on the Finance Committee, where I think she would be a great addition. She's got a finance background, which isn't always necessary, but I think she'll add some experience to the committee.
Motion to appoint?
Second.
There's a motion to appoint and a second. Any discussion?
I'd just like to thank her for continuing to volunteer for the town, and think it's a great appointment, so I urge everyone to vote yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. There are no hearings this evening. We move on to license transactions under G. We have a petition P2019-007, 3 one-day alcohol entertainment licenses to the Portuguese Hall.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion, there's a second to approve. Any discussion?
I thought the town manager did these now.
Who do these?
Why are we getting them?
It's 3-day.
Town manager does some of these, but only when the one-day application is for alcohol. So when they're combined alcohol and entertainment, they come back to the council.
Thank you.
Good catch. There is a motion and there's a second. Any further discussion on this?
I hope to make it this year. I drive past it frequently every year, and I don't have the opportunity to go in. Frank's not here. He says it's a great time, so everyone should support this.
It is.
Yep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the 3 one-day alcohol and entertainment licenses have been passed. Moving on to petition 2019-008, one-day entertainment license, a block party fundraiser.
Motion to approve?
Second.
There's a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Moving on to petition P2019-009, 5 one-day alcohol entertainment licenses for the 49ers Club.
Motion to approve? Second.
There's a motion and there's a second to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Licenses have been passed. Thank you. Presentations, we do not have any. And we will go to the town manager's report.
Mr. President, I have a few items this evening, not too many, but I do want to give you a bit of good news. We learned this week that we are the recipient of a Mass Cultural Council, bless you. Bless you. And that's the end of my report. No, we got a good news. We're the recipient of a Mass Cultural Council grant to the tune of $30,000. It's a matching grant, but it is for feasibility for the reuse of Town Hall for community and cultural purposes. And so we'll be getting on top of that very soon and getting our ducks in a row to do that feasibility work. We anticipate that once the feasibility work is done, we'll be able to go back to the Mass Cultural Council and seek capital grants for any work that needs to be done to complete the building and turn it into a cultural center. So that's good news. We have been having some discussions in-house on relocation of the fire department. Those discussions will continue, and we'll have some discussions with BSU about potential sharing of some space in the future. And we'll also have, we are having some discussions about whether it would be appropriate and feasible and cost-effective for us to simply replace the current headquarters with another building more on the western side of town, or if it makes more sense to create 3 presences, three facilities, so to speak, in town, maybe one in the center of town, one currently on Plymouth Street, and then one on the western side of town. And a lot plays into those discussions, and a lot plays into the feasibility study that will go on for that relocation, including an analysis of insurance rates and so forth. So So that is ongoing. We have been putting together a committee. The committee itself has not met yet, but we've been putting together a committee of essentially a committee that would review the work of the feasibility study and determine what makes the most sense for us in the siting of a new fire station. So and I think for public purposes, and I think this council knows that the benefit of moving the fire station out of its current location, well, actually there are multiple benefits of that. One is there's a better, higher, and best use for the property that fire station sits on. The other is quite honestly a safety issue with fire trucks currently negotiating Central Square in a direction that's opposite the flow of traffic. So those are the two biggest reasons, but certainly the facility is undersized. I think the public, any public that have gone through that station or visited that station understand that, but certainly there's a lot of work to do before we actually do make a decision and relocate. I'll just skip around if it's okay. We do have a consultant on board on the town hall. So we're doing a feasibility study on the town hall. At the same time, the council has asked that we put the town hall, place the town hall in the National Historic Register. It currently sits on the Massachusetts Register, which is great, but it gives some potential investment options if we put it on the National Historic Register. There's potentially a tax benefit down the road for somebody if we end up leasing the town hall on a long-term basis. For some reason, there are potential tax benefits to a developer if it's got that historic designation. So some historic tax credits. So that is in process. We have, I know Councilor Columbotus has asked a number of times about cleaning out the second floor. I think we both share the idea that if we can clean out that second floor, that really will present a very dramatic space and develop some interest in the use of that building. And I certainly agree with that. We have not honestly had a whole lot of time to coordinate that, but summer is here. The weather is going to be good from now on, and so we're going to see if we can get a price on a complete clean out and just get that done. So that's where we stand with that one. I'll go to the last item. We have reached out. I think the council had asked me some time ago to reach out to businesses with parking lots, mostly in the downtown area, just to point out that a lot of their striping has, certainly their directional striping has faded over time, over multiple winters, and needs to be redone. We did reach out to the CVS location, and we reached out to the Walgreens location, and there's another one we also reached out to. That was probably about 8 months ago, or at least last fall, and asked them if they were planning on restriping their lots. They all said, oh yes, we're going to look at that. I don't think anything substantive has been done since then, and we don't, unfortunately, we don't have any particular enforcement ability to require them to restripe directional, so we use our, we'll bring in the heavy guns to really urge them to point out to them the benefits of restriping their lots. And there are benefits to restriping the lots because it cuts down on accidents, and it's good for their business, quite frankly. But we don't have any ordinance, or we have not, over at least the last number of years, added anything into site plan review decisions that would allow us something to hang our hat on when it comes to an enforcement of line striping and directional striping. So that's that piece. The overall, I was asked if we could I could address the overall debt load, and certainly this is a timely issue. We've got the Mitchell School coming up for a potential debt exclusion vote in October, November. timeframe, and we have, obviously, we're going to be looking at some road repair that's going to be over and above way over and above our Chapter 90 allocation. So the question came up as to what our current debt exposure looks like, and what's coming off the books, and is there an argument to be made that any future debt will come on as current debt falls off. And there is some of that. I've asked Tony Solmonti, our finance director, to prepare a presentation for the council that more thoroughly walks you through our current debt, where it's located, what it's for, and also whether it's within the levy limit or if it's debt excluded, and the impact that some multiple capital projects will have on our debt exposure coming up. But I think, he's scheduled to come in your next meeting, I believe June 4th, to give you that. And I think that is timely because it'll be time for us to start disseminating a lot more information, relative to the potential Mitchell School project and other projects that we have coming up down the road. So the 4th he will come in. But I can tell you, excuse me, we are in the last year of I believe it's Station 2. We're in the last year of that. These are debt excluded items. We're in the last year of the police station. And other than that, the biggest item that is debt excluded, these are non-school. The biggest items that are debt excluded are obviously this building, and then some minor debt on Memorial Building and the fire station roof. There are some items within the levy that are coming off. The Hogue Farm comes off this year. I say this year, I mean FY20, so I apologize. I'm a year ahead. And then there's some other minor things that are coming off. We have a 2012 fire engine that does not come off. That extends out to 2025, but that's the longest that any debt within the levy lasts, is 2025. So as I say, Tony will give you a whole breakdown and do a presentation to at least give you a sense of where we are and what the impact would be of the debt that we may bring on as a result of a debt exclusion vote for the Mitchell. So that is sort of where we stand. I don't have the school debt in front of me, but there's some coming off that too. Actually, the Mitchell, I believe, comes off in 2020 or 2021. So, and that's the second piece of the Mitchell, the fix back in 2002 or 2001, whenever that was. So that's just a broad overview. Obviously, Tony will get into the more of the minutia, if that's possible, on that. So any questions on those items that I can answer?
Councilor Fitzgibbons?
Yeah, just a couple things. And these are more suggestions than I need answers right now. The first is to understand, you said the academy building is debt excluded. That had to happen because that's the process, but it's my understanding a lot of that is being picked up by the community preservation funds, and so if Mr. Solmonti can address that versus actual taxes being put on people, that would be great. Also have him address what the best practices are around what's the appropriate size of a debt load relative to the levy base, both excluded and included. We've had, over time, I know from our auditors, we've had reports saying you're under, you're over, et cetera, and so that would be important to know. And then I just want to comment about the private business lot direction striping, that if anyone's been down to Winter Place lately, Mr. Gabriel, who owns that parcel of land, has done a great job making that spiffed up, and I want to thank him and commend the work to CVS and Walgreens and whoever else needs to look at it, that yes, this is what we can do. So those are my comments.
Councilor Columbo's, do you have any questions? I mean, I think
do,
these are the
actually.
items that you wanted some clarification on. I just wanted to...
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Dutton, in terms of the relocation of the fire department, you said there's currently a feasibility study or process going on now? Is this an in-house thing, or is there outside?
We're getting,
staff?
I guess the best way to put it is we're getting our ducks in a row in-house, and
Right.
we'll come to the council either probably, well, possibly the next meeting, probably the second meeting in June, looking for an appropriation for feasibility funds. And that would be to hire a consultant to come in and do the official work that begins that process.
Right. And also for the town hall, did you mention an outside consultant working on that, or is that also in-house?
No, the outside consultant, we can now hire the outside consultant with the
This
funding
grant.
that
Right.
the Mass Cultural Council has given
Right.
us, and with some additional funding from the council.
Right. I'd just like to take a moment to just commend you for this. I mean, a lot of people get impatient with studies and plans and everything, but I just want to point out that the feasibility study really is the important first step of due diligence. We did that with this building to see whether we could fit everything in here, and then that's how you know you're spending your money well, if it's actually going to pan out. So I think I'm encouraged to hear that that process is going on with these two projects. Thank you.
And I would point out, to your point, in this case, particularly with the Mass Cultural Council, they buy into a project at the feasibility phase. So if we can show them with the small amount of money that we've been given, which actually is actually on the higher side of the awards that were given statewide, which is a good sign. But if we're able to maximize the use of that money and come back with really good results, that puts us in a better position to capture capital funding through Mass Cultural
Going
Council
forward,
as well. So it's sort of a first step. You can't just jump to the capital and get the capital money. So we've got their buy-in, which is excellent, and we'll work closely with them, obviously, through the feasibility stage.
Thank you.
Wood?
Excuse me, a couple questions. So with the discussion about the downtown lot striping, especially with the Walgreens lot, because it's so big and encompasses multiple businesses, have you considered the possibility of like a joint item where the private property owner would actually allow the town to use spaces in there as municipal spaces in exchange for some coverage of the painting?
We hadn't talked about that specifically. We had thought of other creative ideas to encourage striping, including, packaging up all the lots and then going to them and saying, we can get you a decent price. But that's actually an interesting...
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, there was a report that I remember, Pete, you and I probably 4 or 5 years ago, maybe at this point, had talked about how the town could leverage private parking spaces to create a larger municipal parking area. And that would be a good area because there's Broad Street as well as Walgreens, as well as, some of the adjacent spaces. On the town hall, my father's on the historic committee.
There's historical.
Historical? Okay. There are records in the basement that he's interested in looking at or having access. So is there an activity around that as opposed to just, to me, it might be just called got junk, but, around preservation of some items there that might have value?
Short answer is absolutely. We have, thanks to the council, we have funded at least the first stage of a records digitizing process was going to say electrification, but that's not right. Digitizing process. So all of those records will come up and get digitized. Obviously, the ones that get used the most will probably be done first. But Mr. Wood has certainly been a presence in my office, and we are trying to work out how we can set up a scenario where you can go through the more historical records, which are not the priority for digitizing just yet. They will be, but they're not the priority. And so last I recall, we had come up with a solution. I can't quite remember what that was, but we have a solution so that we don't want we don't want anybody down in the basement of that building just because it's not safe. Not because of any hazards. It's just not a stable floor, and it's low ceilings, and yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
So we do have a solution there. So Mr. Wood will have the ability to go through every record from 1707 to as far as he wants to go.
It might take 20 years to do that. Some help would be good. So I know that you just said that the building's already on the state historical registry. Is the benefit for the national simply those additional credits or benefits for grants and things like that?
I'd say probably the biggest benefit are both of those. The potential for historic tax credits down the road for whatever may happen, but also the potential for grant funding through mass historical.
Right. And for next time, if we could hear about the house on the NIP, because I'd like to know what the condition and what the activity is going out there. We bought the house, we bought the land, we sold the house, which I didn't really like because I thought we could do a different type of deal, but sold the house, and my understanding is the house is now kind of at a standstill and just sitting there rotting away. So I'd like to hear an update about that next meeting.
Councilor George?
Thank you, through you to the town manager. So for the next meeting, for our foreshadowing, as our town attorney has required us, if I could get a status on the letter to the Bridgewater Rainham Regional School Committee about the review of regional agreement, and also potential next steps, if you have that information. So I'd like to have that in your report. Also, on Saturday, driving by downtown or actually not downtown, but by the college, university, during commencement, I noticed that we have a empty lot, vacant lot, unkempt lot that was used for paid parking. So I'd like to propose an order for the town manager to start the process of developing a permitting process for paid parking on private lots.
I guess the appropriate thing to do is to have Ann write an order up, and we talk about it at the next meeting.
So
Introduce the
introduce it.
legislation.
And I am all for organizations, making some money, well needed, supplying parking, but to drive by an unkept lot of an owner who fails to maintain it, and also see cars parked almost on top of each other, I think we do need to set some guidelines in regards to how those lots are monitored, what they're allowed to park, from that perspective, and also have them go through a permitting process. And I'm not looking for, this to make $1 million, but I think we need to have something in place for that going forward.
I will certainly bring that back. I would only suggest that we can just work together to develop an ordinance.
Yep. Okay.
Happy to do that.
If you know of any other towns that maybe have something similar that we can just use as a guide, I'm all for doing that as well. We can't use Foxborough though. That'd be crazy.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
No, not Foxborough.
Used a few of those
I don't know
lots.
if maybe Norton has something because of Wheaton, or Easton because of Stonehill. I don't know, but I think we need to have something in place. You were very good at responding to me on Saturday when I drove by and just saw that going on and thought, how could this happen? And we don't have anything in place, so I think we should put something in place.
Any other questions for the town manager? I guess the appropriate thing at this point would be to ask, are there any questions to the town manager relating to any of the subjects that have been brought up?
Correct.
Okay, and then I guess this would be a good format also to let the town manager know what you want to talk about next time. However, you can also email Ian, prior to the agenda being available, of issues and subjects you want to talk about. But there's 9 of us. If we all put 5 things on the agenda, we'd run out of letters in the alphabet. We'll have to start with. I think this will work. Councilor Loesch.
And to add to that point, I do hope that all of the counselors are using their weekly one-on-one check-ins with the town manager to discuss the topics that they have very high interest in, and not utilizing that opportunity to speak to him and get updates there. To your point, we don't need a 26-letter agenda item.
Ms. Gibbons?
Just through you to Attorney Rollins, out of an abundance of caution, I guess, should then the town manager's report agenda item always include items for next meeting
Yes.
from the council?
It's a good idea to do.
I'll just make the suggestion to the town clerk, the council clerk, that we include that standing item at the end all the time.
Do you have anything else?
No, I'm all set, but I would only add, I'm certainly available to fit into your schedules wherever you need me to fit in. So I'm happy to, some counselors text me, some email, some talk to me. However, whatever works best, I'm perfectly happy with.
Councilor Columbotus?
I'm a little unclear. So are we essentially scrapping the town manager's report as we had it before? So you used to come forward with a list of things you wanted to update us on. You can't do that unless they're on the agenda, right?
I guess that's in open session. Now, I try to do it monthly and give you a whole update on a whole list of extraneous things that don't relate to each other at all. And I'll continue to do that. That's a written report. And that's ultimately part of the record.
Right.
And that operational report might generate a question or two from us to have more clarification on.
Okay.
But that has to be on the agenda.
Yes, you would read his report that he emails us, and then for a future meeting, you might see something in there, or meet with him, well, like he said. Okay?
One more. One
One more.
So the operational report, is that something you make public on the town webpage or the Facebook page?
It ends up being disseminated many different ways, but my practice has been, and this will probably change, my practice has been to, I give you a report. On rare occasion, there's some matters that are council concern that wouldn't necessarily be of public concern that I might include in there, but generally, I will give a version of the report to all the board and committee chairs and all the department heads. So it's all distributed internally. So, and as I say, that email is becoming, sort of the dinosaur. The way the telegraph is. So I may look to try to change that up and may put it either on the website, distribute it to you through the website, or post it on Facebook, or I'm not quite sure. But so that's generally the distribution list right now. And through that, it ends up, I don't know where it ends up.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Okay, moving on to items under discussion. There are none. Committee reports, there are none. Legislation for action, ordinance DFY 19-005. Zoning ordinance establish special permit criteria, cultivation, manufacturing, and testing, adult use of marijuana. A duly noticed joint public hearing of the Community and Economic Development Committee and Planning Board was conducted and closed on April 17, 2019. At the conclusion of the hearing, the Community and Economic Development Committee voted 3-0 to recommend this ordinance, and the Planning Board voted 4-0 one abstention, to recommend. This measure has been duly advertised in the Enterprise and on the town's website, therefore may be finally considered this evening. And I will refer to the sponsor of this article, Councilor Loesch, to give us an update. That was it.
No additional updates. You've read it very nicely. It has been duly advertised. We've had great discussion, and I think this is just the final step to have this become a zoning ordinance.
I will entertain a motion to
So moved.
move to approve.
Yes.
There's a motion, and
Second.
there's a second. Any discussion on this? Mr. Fitzgibbons?
I just have a quick question through you to the town attorney. We have 7 counselors here, so 6 have to vote in favor of if we want it to pass, correct?
Two-thirds of the full council, right?
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Wood?
As I said before, I appreciate all the work that went into doing this. I think it's important on zoning ordinances, especially ones that appear in the use table as special permits, that the council, through zoning changes and whatnot, describe exactly what a special permit is and the criteria that the planning board and others should use to evaluate how to allocate the permit. Tonight, I will be supporting this. As you know, I have objected to bans in the past and whatnot, but I think this piece should be supported. It, regardless of what happens with any other vote related to it, I think that the quality of the work is high, the definitions are good. It sets policy in a way that we should follow for any future special permit and any review of the zoning ordinances that exist today that don't have this sort of piece behind it. So thank you for all the effort behind it.
Anyone else? This does require a 2/3 vote or 6 members of the council, as pointed out a few minutes ago and now pointed out again. So I'll refer to the council clerk for a roll call.
Mr. Chase.
Yes.
Mr. Wood.
Yes.
Mr. George.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Mr. Rushton.
Yes.
Mrs. Loesch.
Yes.
Mr. Columbotus.
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
8 in favor, none against.
So the ordinance passes. Moving on to ordinance FY 19-006, general ordinance acceptance of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53 and 3/4 concerning EEG access and cable-related fund. At their meeting held on April 29, 2019, the Budget and Finance Committee voted 3-0 to recommend approval of this measure. The Finance Committee voted 6-0 to approve at their meeting held on April 29, 2019. This measure has been duly advertised in the enterprise and on the town's website, therefore may be finally considered this evening. I'll entertain a motion to adopt this general ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and there's a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, this does require a roll call vote as well.
Mr. Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Columbotus.
Yes.
Mrs. Loesch.
Yes.
Mr. Rushton.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Mr. George.
Yes.
Mr. Wood.
Yes.
Mr. Chase.
Yes.
8 in favor, none against.
Ordinance has now passed. Ordinance FY 19-054, transfer order, sewer reserve special purpose. Budget and Finance Committee voted 2-0 to recommend approval of this measure with proposed amendments at their meeting held on May 14, 2019. The Finance Committee voted 5-0 to approve this measure with proposed amendments on May 13, 2019. This measure may be finally considered this evening, pending the consideration of the proposed amendments. I'll refer to Councilor Wood. I believe the amendments were just simply the amounts.
That's correct. There was a change in the amounts required.
So I'll entertain a motion to consider the proposed amendments.
Motion to approve first?
Second.
It's a motion to approve. and
Motion to
there's a-
amend is indicated?
Right.
Second.
So all those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we're working under the main motion, which does require a roll call vote. And there's been a motion and a second. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mr. Souza. I'm sorry. Mr. Chase.
Yes.
Mr. Wood.
Yes.
Mr. George.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Mr. Rushton.
Yes.
Mrs. Loesch.
Yes.
Mr. Columbotus.
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
8 in favor, none against.
So that transfer order has been approved. We'll move on to item M, old business. There is no old business and new business. We have an ordinance FY 19-007, creation of a review committee. This was referred to the Rules and Procedures Committee and referred to the Budget and Finance Committee. I guess tonight, I'll refer to Councilor Loesch on this. I don't know where the process is. So all we have to do is refer it, right?
Yes, we have.
We talked about it last time, but we're going to, okay. So I'll entertain a motion to refer this to the Rules and Procedures Committee.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion, there's a second to refer this to committee, the Rules and Procedures Committee. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Just to remind everyone, we had discussed creating a committee, a standing committee that would be held responsible. Its sole charge is to ensure that we have annual reviews of the town manager and our town council clerk, create the process, create the ins and outs of it, and then ensure that it runs on an annual basis, because for the past 4 years that I've been on the council, we have yet to hit our stride there, so creating this committee would help with that. So that could be discussed in rules and procedure, but since I'm no longer on there, I just wanted to provide additional context.
I have a
Yes,
question.
Mr. Wood.
I have a question about, so is the intention, since it's a review process, also to join that with goals and expectations for the people that the review would be held for?
That currently lies in strategic planning under my understanding. There could be a joint committee, or joint meeting of those two committees to discuss those things, but that hasn't been fleshed out yet because the committee has not been created.
Okay.
So we'll have,
The goals are still in strategic planning then?
Correct.
Yes, okay, thank you.
so it's been a motion and a second to refer this to Rules and Procedures. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance has been referred to the Rules and Procedures Committee. Under Order FY 19-058, transfer order, other one-time unforeseen expenses. I love that word, unforeseen. Unforeseen expenses by the town manager. This needs to be referred to Budget and Finance Committee.
So moved.
There's a motion to...
Second.
And there's a motion and there's a second to refer to Budget and Finance Committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This has now been referred to the Budget and Finance Committees. Are there any citizens' comments this evening? Are there any citizens here that wish to speak under the citizens' comments portion of this meeting? Seeing none, I'll move on to council comments, and I'll begin to my far right, Councilor Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that it would be appropriate at this point with the upcoming Memorial Day holiday to simply hope that all the town residents find an appropriate and respectful way to observe that holiday and to do so safely. That's all.
Mr. Wood.
I'm going to jump ahead to the next holiday. Now that we've made it successfully through our fiscal year 20 budget, the July 4th always reminds me of that we're a really small town. The budget always reminds me that we're not. But it's been in social media and other places, and I don't know if the three people watching, the budget doesn't support the 4th of July ceremonies, the fireworks and the parade and that sort of thing. So if people can communicate out that it's a donation process and that there's a committee, Bridgewater 4th, I'm not sure what it is, bridgewater4th.org. There's one that's similar. It's been posted all over Facebook. Remind people that the town council and the budget does not directly support that. And although wish we could, we don't. And only donations drive the process, and they need all they can get this year. So that's it. Thanks.
Mr. George.
Thank you, Mr. President. Couple things. So on Monday, myself, Councilor Fitzgibbons, Councilor Rushton, and President Gallagher participated in Government Day for Bridgewater Rainham Regional School District, and this is my third time doing it, and it was a lot of fun. The kids were very engaged. It was great to see all the support by the town manager, the assistant town manager, all the department heads, or people that stepped in for the department heads as well. And I'll say that for those who didn't get to watch it, each department does a report, and I think every group is engaged, but I think this group was a little bit, I'd say, above the engagement that we've seen in the past. The questions that we had as counselors for our two students were really good, and I think everyone that participated got a lot out of it. So I think that's a great thing, and it's gone for a long time, and hopefully it will continue to go. And I think the one thing that I thought was a good point, I don't know who made it, is that a lot of people think that the stuff that we do collectively is our full-time job, which it isn't, obviously, but yet we're able to convey to them that they're going to go into different disciplines, be it nursing, be it engineering, be it law enforcement, but that does not prohibit them from actively participating in their community from that perspective. So I thought that was a good message to deliver, and I think it hit home with a lot of kids. I have to echo Councilor Wood in regards to the July 4th. I'm buying my T-shirts for a few friends as well. That's another avenue that they're doing fundraising. They're also going to have an event at Greyhound. I forget exactly when it is. A portion of the proceeds from that night from sales is going to go to it as well. But I think for anyone that's gone, if you do the math real quick, if every person who walked through that gate or sat on that lawn gave $2, I would venture to guess that we could probably every year cover more than half of the annual budget for the 4th of July. And I would hope people take that to heart in regards to support, because it's an all-day event. I'd even say the people that go to the parade too, if you could get a few bucks out of them. But the people that put the work into that, it's tremendous for the amount of money that they're able to spend. We have a lot of departments that, I will say, do a lot of accommodations, and rightfully so. But it is a little personally disheartening and aggravating to see them constantly ask for money. And you have to ask for it, but they go down to the last minute of trying to raise enough funds so that it's a break-even proposition. So I just hope more people step up either before or during the event to be able to support it as well. And then I'll echo Councilor Chase's comments in regards to Memorial Day. We'll have a parade, that comes into the center of town, which I know is well attended, and I hope to see everybody there. Thank you.
Mr. Rushton.
If I could just add on to Councilor George, I think he said enough about Student Government Day. I didn't know what to expect being my first opportunity to participate, but it was a really good group of engaged students from BR. I had a really good time, and I would just like to close by thanking all of the town employees that participate in that, because I know it's not easy to take that kind of time out of your busy schedules to participate, but it certainly makes it, a better program for the students who take the time to come over. So I had a really great time. Looking forward to it next year.
Yes, the dine dinner at the Greyhound's 19th of June. They also have this is in regard to the 4th of July, they also have a separate group where different vendors are selling things, albeit 31, or different jewelry that a portion of their proceeds go. So if you feel like you want to do something back, you can do that. July 4th has a special place in my heart. It's my wedding anniversary, so I feel like all this happens for me. So I want to make sure it goes off without a hitch. Thank you all for doing the Student Government Day, and I think that is it for me. If I'm forgetting anything, I'll post it on Facebook if I forgot.
Mr. Columbotus.
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Mr. Fitzgibbons.
I just echo Mr. Rushton, Mr. George around Student Government Day, and I will be there for Memorial Day and hope we have a great turnout for the parade. I do want to, and I'm sure I convey this on behalf of the entire council, thank the town departments, specifically Public Safety, Fire and Police, for doing a great job with commencement this year again at Bridgewater State. It's literally a nightmare. We understand that, but they did a great job making sure things moved as smoothly as possible, and I appreciate their efforts. And then, on a sad note, and this is from our partner community over in Rainham, today we lost somebody who I knew from my time on the school committee and who did a great job for Rainham and working for the Bridgewater Rainham Regional School District. Shoshana Garshik passed away, and she was instrumental in forming the Rainham Parent Volunteer Group, RAVE, and really working hand in glove with the district and doing a great job. So she will be missed, and I just want to send our condolences out to Rainham and all who knew her.
Thank you. And on a final note, one more thing about Student Government Day. I really thought that the students did a great job this year. I actually got to meet some department heads that I didn't know, so it was good for me too. But it was a really good morning here in the town. And on behalf of the council and Precinct 1 Council Loesch, I was honored to present a proclamation earlier this evening to John Coyle, who achieved his Eagle Scout. And I know we talked a lot about parklands the past few meetings. His project this year was, his Eagle Scout project was to put some signs and make Camp Titicut a little more handicapped accessible in the parking area and clean up some of the brush. So it was a very good ceremony prior to this meeting. I was not able to stay for the dinner because I had to get back here. So, and to reiterate what everybody else said, Memorial Day is Monday. I can't reiterate it enough to come on out, particularly with all the hometown hero banners that are displayed throughout the community, particularly in the downtown area. The 100th anniversary of the ending, where all the troops from World War I were coming home, I think this year would be pretty fitting. So I encourage everyone, if it's regardless of the weather, to come on down to the Common at about 10:30 or so. On that note, our next meeting is 2 weeks from tonight on June 4th, 2019. So on that note, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We do not have executive session this evening. There's a motion, there's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.